You know, they say if you pinch your nose or something and you do something like your eyes can blow.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Oh, like blow out of your head?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess like if you have sinus things going on, too much sinus pressure, plus that, it could like do something bad.
Turn into one of those like Guinness World Record eye popping people. Remember those?
Yeah.
Those were so big in 1999.
It's true.
Oh,
that
yeah.
was huge.
Yeah.
That clip would go viral, though.
Oh,
Again? Oh, yeah. Looking like Glenn from Walking Dead.
He's like...
I can't see. Oh, that's a good point. I don't know if they came out if you could still see. Because you're...
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be some tearing of the optic
that's
nerve,
gotta be
huh?
some
I don't
damage.
see how
I don't
they
know.
do that.
Is your optic nerve kind of coiled up in that room?
I think you have room on the nerve.
Oh, God, it
so it
starts
depends
pulling,
on how far.
Oh.
Starts pulling on your brain, basically.
Yeah.
The optic nerves, like connected right to the brain, isn't it?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's
Yeah.
why I think it goes at the back, right?
I don't know about that.
Think
How does it go all the way to the back? Like
it
it goes
I think it
through.
goes all the way through or something.
Yeah.
It's wild.
The eyes are the windows to the soul.
That's why
That's what
Casey
Paul
did.
said.
Did he?
Also Casey.
Paul Casey, John Mark, my
Comer.
Uncle Gene. Oh, Comer. We're already there.
John Mark Comer.
The way.
John Mark, come here.
I like to
The
sit
way.
out every morning in my backyard on a rock and ground and meditate and
I connect with Mother Earth.
Spirit, Holy Spirit is my keyword to ground myself back to a line, and that's how I start my day. No electronics, no nothing, just me and the divine.
I think he only owns like 2 or 3 shirts. That's by choice. He's a minimalist.
He's a
and he
monk.
only buys it.
Just
he
a
only
monk.
buys it
Yeah,
from
he's
here.
Amish at this point, basically.
Yeah.
Okay, 2024, make some projections. He eventually moves into the middle of the desert, to the middle of nowhere, like a mountain, desert,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think
something like that.
Montana.
Montana.
I see him in the middle of
Yes.
Montana. Yeah.
Just to isolate himself from all outside negative influences, as well as 5G. And
But he hosts retreats and monetizes the heck out of this bad boy.
it's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Dude, this man's
Come
got
and
the
be like
money.
me. Yeah.
Be like Christ, I mean.
Yeah. What episode is this?
This is season 3, episode 7. It's going to be a fun episode, a good episode.
Yeah.
But we are in that season in South Mississippi that we get for like 10 days approximately. This is where you fully embrace whatever your hobby is, whether it's golf. I know we got some golfers, grilling. What's your guys' hobbies? Like in this weather, what do you look forward to?
Well, I grilled yesterday and it was nice.
Yeah?
It was out on
Yeah.
the porch.
Grill.
That was really nice.
Oh, dude,
It is
golf,
It's not a
Yep.
hobby. I mean, it can't be a
Pickleball.
hobby, but that's not.
golf,
Yeah.
golf.
Well, so...
Golf.
I like
Occasionally.
sitting on my porch. It's nice.
Okay, so it does seem to be just porch sitting.
It's your hobby. I like to go ground with nature.
33 years old. I like to sit on the porch.
I like to
Read my paper.
No, I honestly, I got a new pull-up bar put in my garage, so I've been doing that, doing some home workouts.
Oh,
So that's
Pull
nice.
up, sit
Nice.
down in the garage. So it seems like every time that guys are about to do their thing, they have a theme song that gets them into the moment or getting excited about it. With you guys, like what is, or do you have a song like you're like, all right, I'm getting ready to golf, grill, or enjoy this moment? What is that song, your go-to song, or maybe genre of song?
I have a hype song and I have a chill song. That gets me into 2 different like veins of like,
Okay,
thinking.
all right.
Little Martha by Allman Brothers. That's like my chill song. Love it. Sit on a porch, put on the Allman Brothers Eat a Peach album. That's like
That's a good
Go-to.
porch. Yeah.
it's a good porch album. And then my workout album is Raised by the Tide by Maylene and the Sons of Disaster. Album 2.
So it gets you in
Oh,
the
it's
mode.
specific.
Wow.
All right. All right.
Wow.
Golf or what are your
Dude,
thing?
I don't know. Jordan recently introduced me to a group. Who is that dude? Pliny? I don't even know how you say it.
Pellini? P-I-L-I-N-I?
That's it.
Yeah.
And it ministers to my soul.
It's just instrumental.
It's just
Okay.
instrumental
But like-
music
Okay.
that
But like-
doesn't go where you think it's going to go.
Yeah.
Every time I listen, he does something. I'm like, how'd you do that?
It's like intricate, like full band,
Yeah.
intricate, like pretty hardcore sounding stuff. Like they'll go
Yeah.
from piano to like bop,
Yeah.
bop. And it's like funk kind of sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a lot
It
of
covers the genres. It's like
Yeah.
almost jazzy,
That's
and then
nice.
it's almost metal, and then
Yeah.
it's kind of funky.
Very nice.
Like it's all over the place.
Yeah.
I love it.
And yeah, it's great.
Okay.
Yeah, I kind of don't have like one genre that I listen to.
Yeah.
It depends. It's all over the map. Like I'm a hardcore guy, like from like Under Oath, all that back in the day. So like if I'm like wanting hardcore, I'm gonna go to Maylene or Under Oath. That's kind of my two go-to there. But yeah, dude, I've been on a country kick for the last couple years.
Let's go.
That's mine too right now.
I don't get it. I think it's the storyline. I was never a country guy,
Yeah.
and now like last couple years, I'm like, I like country.
Yeah.
I like country. So that's kind of weird. Yeah, it's weird for me. But like on the course, dude, it's all over the place, man.
Yeah.
It's got to start out chill. So I mean, you get your Chris Stapleton playlist going or something
Yeah.
like that. You know what I'm saying? Or like your nice Allman Brothers. Down that vein. And what's the band? Out and down and down and down. There's a calm before the storm,
Creedence.
and I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
CCR, bro.
Yeah, CCR.
man.
CCR 's
I love
undefeated.
CCR.
yeah, you get that going on the course. That's always a good time.
Yeah.
But
Just don't let them steal your Credence tapes.
Why would they steal our
Don't know what
Creedence
this
tapes?
I don't
Big
either.
Lebowski reference. Sorry.
Oh.
It's a. Sorry.
What is
You
it?
guys ever seen The Big Lebowski? Jeff
Oh,
Bridges.
no.
I have.
I've
just
heard
thought-
of it.
Yeah, I've
That's-
heard of it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
He
apparently
gets
it's a really famous
yeah,
movie.
Dude, it's a iconic cult classic. But anyways, the dude gets his car stolen, but he's really disappointed because they probably stole his Credence tapes. That's it.
That's
He
the
doesn't
actual
care.
problem.
He doesn't really care about the car.
that's
He's
the
mad
joke.
more about his Credence tapes.
Creedence tapes.
He wants his Credence tapes back.
I like that.
yeah.
That's his only valuable item in there.
That's funny.
When
That
was
is
The
funny.
Big Lebowski out? Is that like 80s?
No, 94, 95.
Okay, mid-90s.
Okay.
Cohen brothers. Same guys that did Oh Brother We're Out though.
Okay.
Ah,
Okay.
Yeah, that's I like
Yeah.
it maybe a lot.
So that was actually a user submitted question.
oh, really?
And in the question, by the way, I'm a country guy too right now. Especially like I
It
really
used to be rap.
yeah.
Like,
well,
that was your
that's
thing.
a different yeah. If
Different
there's other
feel.
modes,
Still like rap?
yeah,
Different mood.
yeah,
Yeah.
I do. I enjoy rap, but if I'm like gonna grill or something, rap music doesn't go over really well.
Yeah, that's
Typical.
very true.
Your neighbor's like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm just grilling, brothers.
Get in the mood.
Just vibing out here.
But yeah, a good country song. That's always fun to
Yeah.
sit out there and start grilling. But in the question that they asked, they said you cannot use worship because they had another question that instantly followed.
Oh,
it
I'm
up.
glad that
Yeah,
we
I'm glad they took that off
naturally
the
went
table
to
for us.
worship
Yeah,
for
they're like,
our
I know
hype
you
song.
guys are.
Oh, I like how great is our God.
Yeah.
That really gets me fired up.
Shout to the Lord if
before
I've
I
had
do
a
the
tough
pull-ups.
day. If I need to get hype.
Before I'm going on a night with the boys, I'm gonna turn on how great is our God.
Now I
You're
just
right.
turn on a Furtick sermon. It gets me really hyped
That's
for a workout session.
Also questionable theology, but
Yeah.
also
I don't
neither
listen
here
for
nor
the
there.
theology.
I don't.
Just the hype.
That's my hype pastor.
Just
Dude,
the
that's
good
perfect.
vibes.
When I want to
That's
get fired up, I listen to him. Yeah. When I want to get fed, I listen to somebody else. But now, in their question though, they like changed it and they said, okay, now when you want to reset spiritually or you like need to recalibrate, what's the go-to worship song? So it was a 2-part song, unless it's the same answer. Oh no, it's still
Alan Jackson.
Alan Jackson, Chris Stapleton,
Chattahoochee.
Chris Stapleton doing the American national
the
anthem.
national anthem. That'll get me in the,
Gets
in
my
the
soul
spirit, dude.
right.
Oh,
Dude.
I got friends in low
Places.
places. Couldn't quite low. Nah, see it. I
tough.
started out the wrong key. Anyway,
Yeah.
I like
Worship.
"Blown Away" by Hillsong. That's a really good.
I haven't thought
anchor
about that
you.
one since Night of Worship 2
Yeah,
years
that
ago.
song.
that's a really good
Didn't
song.
we do communion to that or something?
Yeah, we
did.
did.
Oh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I like that song a lot.
Yeah, that's a good song.
I forgot about that one.
Mm.
I have to go back to it.
It's a good one.
All Hail King Jesus for me is like that's
That's a
been
good
the
one.
been the go-to for a little while now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a good one. Man, that's terrible. I don't know. I can't think of the name of the song that I listen to nonstop right now.
Okay.
Oh yeah, definitely not nonstop.
Well, not
Yeah.
nonstop. But like,
I don't
yeah.
listen to a lot of music comparatively speaking to how I used to. I used to listen to
Yeah, me
music
neither.
a lot,
All the time. Yeah.
and in the last, I'd say like 7-ish years.
Yeah.
It's just I don't listen to music as much as I used to. It's probably even to like maybe some podcasts, but honestly, I'm not like I'm not devouring content all the time.
Yeah.
Like it's just I don't know.
It's just not that season.
Well, if I start devouring a podcast that's making me think, I have to keep thinking. My brain doesn't like.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
like,
right.
and then I'm like stuck in kind of like that mode. I'm like, huh. And sometimes I don't want to commit to that.
yeah.
It's a lot.
I'm like, I just want to know. It's a pretty day today.
You mean you don't listen to those 3-hour podcasts I sent in our group
No,
chat?
Brent's like spitting out these podcasts, man.
3
I'm like,
hours?
oh,
It takes me like 3 days to
Okay,
actually
yeah.
digest
Yeah.
it.
but honestly,
Yeah.
that's a lot. So if I was to listen to a 3-hour podcast in 3 days, that's still like, dude, you listen to an hour a day?
Yeah,
Wow.
that's crazy.
Yeah, I don't. Nope. I got about.
It's
15
usually during my
minutes.
workout sessions
Yeah.
when I listen to podcasts.
See, I struggle with. Well, first off, I'm doing a lot of group fitness stuff, and so you can't listen
That's
to
true,
stuff in that. But I find that when I'm working out and listening to something, I'm not focused on my workout, so I'm not I'll
Okay.
sit
I
there,
know
and
what you mean.
I'll start thinking between sets, and I'm not staying engaged,
Sometimes I find myself doing that.
like drifting.
Yeah, I'll drift. I'm like, I'm not even actually I'm not listening to the work. I'm not listening to the podcast.
Yeah,
I'm
one
not
or the
really
other.
working out.
Yeah.
I'm like, then I'll swap it up.
Yeah.
So, dude, sometimes I'll even put on classical music while I'm working out, dude.
Mm-hmm.
It gets me really focused and it gets me like really calm, and I'm able to do my sets even better.
Yeah.
It's true.
I think my song right now is The Dove. Carrie Job. I seem to turn that on when I just need a little reset. I don't remember most of the verses, but I know it's got some bridge. It's like, yeah, that's the one. So that's for me. So these questions actually, so we talked at the beginning of this episode, we got a friend coming on next week, Nick, who's a worship guy. Like what all does he do? Or like who is he?
Yeah, he does a lot of worship stuff right now. He does like consulting stuff for churches.
So we're going to ask him these same questions, and I think we just need to make a commitment just to mock him with whatever he says.
Whatever he says, yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
like that.
definitely.
Like
Yeah,
there's
100%.
no right
Confuse
answer.
him.
Yeah.
And just like when he answers, be like, oh, that's a terrible answer.
Huh.
Oh, that's awful.
Interesting song there, man.
Yeah.
Like disappointed.
It's disappointing.
I didn't know you were one of those people.
Yeah. Do you like John Mark Comer?
See
Ground
how many
yourself.
Comer references we can make the
That's
whole
what it is.
episode.
Yeah.
It's all one big joke. No,
We're going back to the garden, right?
It'd be classic.
that sounds like the
Garden
way.
City.
Nick, do you ground in the morning?
How many shirts do you own?
Are they black and gray? Sometimes tan.
Made in the United States.
Oh,
Yeah.
Do you like to softly talk whenever you teach? Do you write down all the words and read it?
Oh, dude, he's probably a soft talker.
Nick, is Nick a soft talker?
I don't know.
When he inspires, does he whisper?
I don't know.
Does he get quieter and
I wouldn't
quieter?
call it a whisper.
It makes
No, I
you
don't-
lean in,
Yes.
and then you see a little tear.
Just a single tear.
Yeah. That's classy when you can do that. No,
a
in
lot
all
of
honesty,
discipline.
we're mocking him, but he really is a friend.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Good
That's
friend.
what it looks like to be a friend.
Yes.
Pale skin, translucent skin.
Dude, yeah, you never want to not be on this podcast. Like if you're a regular, because you just get tore to shreds. When
You're confused. Just confused.
Community. That's what real
That's
friendship
what
looks like.
friend-
He hasn't even been on the
is.
podcast yet.
Yeah, we're just setting everybody
Just
up.
can't wait. I've been waiting to rip Nick on a podcast for many years now.
This is what friendship and
That's
community
why we
is.
started this podcast.
It's
to rip you
37
moment.
episodes.
It's a long play.
So this
Has
is
it been
T-ball.
37?
we're
This is
done
episode
after this
37.
one because we're done with Nick. you
Yeah.
know?
This is called the slow play. No. Okay, we did use the word friend a lot. Talking about
Yes,
Nick.
he is a friend.
Which actually is kind of the question that we got from one of our subscribers or scrubscribers, whatever we call them this week.
Scritters.
The what?
The Scritters.
Scritters.
The scritters. Okay.
Scritters.
I like scrubscriber.
Yeah, scrubscriber.
Subscriber.
Like it's subscriber. It's just you're a scrub
Yeah.
scriber.
I
Yeah,
like it.
and we do want scrubs.
You feeling scrubby?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So one of our scrubs asked this question. We wanted to kind of talk off of this, and they said this. They said, "I have a friend," and in parentheses it said, "a brother in Christ." Okay.
Well, there
Amen.
goes.
Is this a chick? Like,
Oh, that's a good.
is that why
No.
they?
That's a good qualifying question.
Oh, that is, but it was not.
Okay.
So it's.
The
but I
old
think they're
we're
just
friends.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
That makes
Yeah.
you read the question
The brother
completely.
in Christ does not know that he
The
is
old
a friend.
friend zone.
The old friend zone.
Nobody
I'd
wants
like
to be
to
a
be more
brother
than
in Christ.
Christians.
Exactly.
Christian friend
The
zone.
Lord has told me we need to be more than friends.
I'd like to be your husband in Christ.
She keeps calling me a brother.
brother.
What do I do?
I have a friend, a brother in Christ, and we always get along. We never really disagree or have fights. Here's the question. Is this a true faith friendship if conflict or correction is never present?
I think that sounds like a great relationship.
That's actually what I'm looking for.
Going for.
You want to be my
Come on the
brother?
podcast.
No judgment. You never ask me about my life. We just stay
Oh, yeah,
on the.
No, I don't have any of the extra
No, it's no
questions
context.
so I don't know like
so
how
we can
long
kind
they've
of
been
run freely
friends.
with it.
Yeah, and we need to because I don't know how long they've been friends, or we know. I assume they're both Christians because it's a brother in
Brother
Christ.
in Christ. Well, yes.
So that's as much content as we have. But is it a true faith friendship or discipleship friendship or whatever if there's never disagreement, conflict, or fighting?
Yeah, I don't think that whether you have conflict or not is the qualifier of whether it's a good relationship or a what relationship? A faith.
A faith friendship, a
Faith
true
friendship.
faith friendship.
Yeah, I mean, that conflict doesn't determine that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Conflict or correction.
I think the duration of the relationship will deter. There's gonna be conflict eventually. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how long. I mean, they might be in a season in their life right now where they're not. They don't have a lot of stress right now, and they're not
Making big decisions.
Yeah, they're not.
Yeah.
There's no conflict yet. You know, they're not. I don't know.
Can you think of any true faith friendships that you have that have been an extended period of time that you haven't had conflict or correction present in them?
I mean, I think one thing you have to look at is the depth of the relationship, because if things are surface level, you can still have a faith relationship that
Yeah.
doesn't have conflict, and that's great. It doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. I do think you do need circles of depthy relationships that do make space for conflict or correction.
Yeah.
So to say that like you can't go that deep with everybody, right? So I think that's one way to look at it is, yeah, maybe this is just a brother in Christ that we don't go that deep with, and there's not
Well,
conflict.
I'm looking like right here. I've been corrected by each of you, and I've corrected each of you,
Yeah.
and we've had conflict.
Yeah.
I've had conflict with each of you.
Yeah.
So probably at some point, I mean, if I start thinking about all the people in my life, now you also have to realize how long, like that's kind of what you're saying. How deep
Yeah.
is a
The
relationship?
duration
How
of the
long you've been together?
relationship.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we've been friends for 3 months. I've got some guys in my life right now that like I'm thinking of one. All right, we've been buddies for like a year and a half. We haven't had conflict or correction. We've had meaningful conversations that were sort of like something he's going through in life, and I'm giving just some like friendly advice. It wasn't like pastoral counsel.
Yeah.
So, but it wasn't conflict or anything like that. Now, eventually, you could, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But that doesn't determine whether or not it's a meaningful or like a depthy relationship. I will say this though, that whenever you do walk through conflict or something like hard together, your relationship does grow. I think.
Yeah,
I think
it
a
can.
relationship grows. Yeah, if both parties involved are okay with that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Which I think meaningful relationships, you are okay with that. You
Yeah.
know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? So I mean, yeah, it's a good question. It just, I think it depends, like we're saying, how long the relationship's been
Yeah.
going on. Just because you guys have not had some sort of conflict, I wouldn't say that means that you guys don't have a good relationship or like
Yeah.
aren't
Yeah.
buddies, and like therefore it's like I should maybe get another friend that I can have conflict
Yeah,
with.
you shouldn't be
No.
looking for the conflict and
Yeah.
correction in
It
every
just-
relationship.
Sure.
It's
Like,
gonna happen eventually.
But it's
No,
actually
that's-
interesting looking for it, because whenever we do talk about friendship and relationship a lot, we do tend to say, when you're going to walk through stuff. And so that could, if you're a young person and you hear that a lot, I don't know if they're a young person, but could start feeling like, I guess I'm supposed to have that in a relationship because
Right.
I hear it talked about so much.
Yeah.
Like in marriage, let's say, is
true,
something
man.
wrong with our marriage because we never have massive conflict? Well, no. It doesn't. If you're not having conflict in your marriage, it doesn't mean that you have a bad marriage. But if you're not having conflict because you're both passive and you're just sweeping things under the rug. And
Totally
you know
different.
deep in your brain, if you're just like, oh, it's not important, it's not important, it's not important. Well, if everything's not important in order to stand on it, say, hey, no, I think that we actually need to do this or don't do this. But if you never make a stand and they never make a stand, there's never anything. Well, in your marriage, that could be a problem because you could just be drifting and not actually moving in the right direction or a direction. So it's a funny question. Then it ends up being a revealing question when you really dig into it.
So there was a comment on this question that I actually think could open this up a little bit more. The comment was this, and it was coming off of one of our podcasts. It said that you guys talk about community a lot. Now, community is again in parentheses. You guys talk about community a lot. When have you actually experienced real biblical community in your life? And then the question is, what did it actually look like? So So I think this is all kind of attached.
Conflict.
Oh, gosh.
Correction.
You know what? You're right.
Correction.
That relationship does suck. You need to get away from that brother in Christ.
I like the question. I like that. What does it actually look like?
Yeah.
Because people say all this stuff, like church language now is like, do life together.
Don't do life alone. Do life together. It's that idea.
Better together. You know, like and all of those things are good. But what is it? What does biblical community actually look like? And this question has actually caused some people to change the way that they view how a church should operate.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like I go to the book of Acts and I see what fellowship looked like. They spent, like, they were together daily.
Yeah.
And so we should be in each other's lives daily, or it's not real discipleship, or it's
and
not
then
real
when that's
fellowship.
not present in my life, I feel like I'm either missing something.
Yeah.
Or I'm not Christian.
Well, it sets the expectation for what it's like to be in the kingdom or in the church or in, a healthy church. And then if it's too big of a church that you can't find community in, then the church it's a bad church.
Yeah.
Although I know of people that are in a very, very small church and they're like, it's not really like, I don't know, it's not really what I'm looking for. I haven't really found it's like, okay, so it's a human thing. It's not based upon the size of the church or whatever, right?
Yeah, right.
No. So what does it actually look like? I'll kind of dive in. I think that based upon your seasons of life, if we get outside the church real quick and we just talk about literally like math in relationships, how much time you have to devote to other relationships. Whenever you're single, you have the most time.
No doubt about it.
Whenever you're married without kids, you have less time, but you have a lot of time. Whenever you have kids, you have literally your time just gets depleted.
Absolutely.
One kid, you could still make it work for a little while. Two kids, it's like, dude, you have to be a very extroverted person who prioritizes like spending time with people like a lot in order to continue to have that. And by the way, it's not right or wrong. Me and Nadine were more like, we never really stopped hanging out with people. We just never did. And we always had circles. It's one of the reasons why as we got older, like, I mean, let's just be real, like we don't hang out that much outside of church, like hardly at all. But we used to a ton.
Yeah.
Well, as you guys got married a little bit before, you guys had kids way before me and Nadine did. The Butterfields ended up in a different season of life where it was like me and Nadine are still married with no kids. So we're like, hey, let's roll. They're like, yeah, we got to put him in a bed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It immediately changes the dynamics of the relationship. Well, then as we had a kid, we still hung out more than maybe you guys did whenever y'all had kids. But what happened, a lot of people that were in our age group were already trailing into less like, hey, it's Sunday night, let's get together for a couple hours. It's like, nah, man, I'd rather just chill out at the house, get ready for the week. I'm like, what does get ready for the week mean?
Yeah.
Like, what do you, food prep? Like, what are we talking about? Like, dude, we're freaking like 27 years old. You know, that's just the way that we operated. So what happened was we started hanging out with younger people than we were. And so it's weird. We've tended to always hang out, generally speaking. Now it's changing now, right? It's changed in the last couple of years, but we were hanging out with people that were always younger than us.
Yeah.
What is that? It's not right or wrong. It's just the way that we were built because we like to go.
Yeah.
And
So seasons of life determine levels of community. In a lot of
that's
ways.
where I was headed with that. And I was painting a picture. I'm like, why am I painting a picture with this?
What am I saying here?
No,
Well, because expectations.
yeah,
Because if you have expectation, like for instance, if I had an expectation of Micah, and I said,
Yeah.
dude, if if we don't get together enough, then we're not really close friends, and that's my expectation of like we should hang out, at least 2 or 3 weekends a month for us to have a real relationship. Well, I just put a stipulation on a relationship,
Sure.
and on Micah or Ashley or who me.
yeah,
That could potentially destroy that relationship.
yeah.
And it actually has nothing to do with like whether or not we're doing life together. It's just how much is enough to hang out with somebody.
Yeah,
Like, is
exactly.
it once every 3 months?
Yeah.
If I hang out with somebody, if me and Nadine hang out with somebody once every 2 months, like consistently,
Yeah.
I mean, we know a lot of people. That's pretty. That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's only 8 weekends in that flow.
Yeah.
And if
Right.
one of those weekends somebody's out of town
Sure.
or sick, or if I already have plans with my family or something like that, dude, there might only be 3 weekends available to spend one of those with somebody. Like that's
High level
that's
community.
high level
Yeah.
community.
Commitment. No, I'm committed to you. No, seriously.
So my point is just as far as how close you are, what community, how close you are to somebody. There's other factors than just like 7 days a week are all 7 opportunities to be with somebody. Like it's not reality.
I think one of the big things for me with community is first, is there a desire for community?
Yeah.
Like internally, if I literally just don't want to be around people, that's a different conversation to me. Some of the others are like actually working it out in different ways that you can achieve community. I'm in just loads of group texts that although we might not all get together,
Very true.
we are there. I mean, and the texts are they're funny, they're laughing. It's not always, hey, here's a scripture verse for the day. Actually, very rarely is that. But then we'll be in a group chat, and all of a sudden, boom, hey, just letting you know, praying for you guys this morning. Somebody will throw that. So, group chats do that. But going back to that first part I said, I think if I don't have a desire for community, that should be a red flag internally. I think that's bigger than a introvert, extrovert. Like if I'm literally like, I just don't want to be around people right now, or I just don't ever want to be around people or engage in friendships or community, I think that's kind of a red flag. Would you guys agree with that?
Yeah, everyone should at least have one person that they can vent to or talk to.
I think we're supposed to have community in our lives biblically, though. Like, I think some people in culture are leaning too heavily into secular philosophy and ideas around relationships, which is like you don't need anybody.
Yep.
Essentially, so it's okay. It's okay to be isolated. I would say biblically, like, okay, if we're supposed to do the Great Commission, you kind of need to.
How do
if
you
we're supposed
disciple
to,
somebody?
yeah, if we're
without
supposed to
knowing
like be in community and a faith community, don't forsake the assembling of your. Like those are commands to be in relationships, and so like you kind of have to, you do have to actually say, is it sinful to not be in relationships? That's kind of an extreme way of putting it, but that's where people want to go first.
Yeah.
Like, well, does the Bible say I have to do it? It's like, well, not everything is beneficial. Some things are what does Paul say? They are permissible, but not beneficial, pretty much, right? And it's like, well, are you going to burn in hell because you don't have 20 relationships? And well, I can't say that. Of course not. That's not even what we're talking about. But as far as general support and maturity, spiritual maturity and growth and supporting one another, discipling someone, like you have to actually put yourself out there.
Yeah.
And the older that
That's
you
true.
get, potentially for some people, the harder it gets.
Absolutely.
And you begin to fall in love with being home.
Yeah.
And not because there's no expectations whenever you're not engaging with people.
Very true.
There's no expectations. There's no responsibility in those relationships.
Yeah.
But I think that you're stealing the opportunity for God to move through you. I think you're stealing the opportunity to grow and influence with people. I believe that there's people who need you, and you're stealing that opportunity from them.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, I don't need groups, or I don't need this, or I don't need that. I'm like, it's the point of whether to be in a group or is not whether you need it or not. I don't need my small group at my house on Sunday nights. I don't need it. Like, let's just be real.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm like you said, group text. I've got circles of people in my life that I am invested in. That you talk about correction and all. Like, oh yeah, I am. My cup is full.
Yeah.
But it's not, that group is not about me. I love the people I'm in group with, so it definitely makes it easy. All right.
Yeah.
But I'm there to serve. I'm there to serve, and I'm there to help where I can. I would hang out with these people on a Friday night. It's like, and I do a lot of times, So so I love it also. But like as far as like the whole thing of the prerequisite of, do I need this? Well, there's a whole lot of things we don't need. We don't need to eat every day. We don't. There's a whole lot of things. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But is it beneficial? Is it good? Is it is it necessary even for other people? I think it is.
Yeah. So with community, you just said, I mean, it was the phrase, I don't need it, but you cleaned that up and kind of made that clear. But like, what about the spots where you do need it? Are there circles that you need to receive? Like, so are you purposely, and this is for all of us, are you in communities where you're giving, but also you're purposely putting yourself in spots where you're receiving at the same time?
What do you mean by, what are we giving and receiving whenever you say that?
So I'm thinking about the comment, biblical community. So I'm thinking about, correction, discipleship, that kind of.
I think that whenever we put that in too quickly or put that into we magnify it too much, that we actually miss a lot of the value in just being.
Yeah.
So yes, discipleship. Whenever you say discipleship, many people automatically think Bible study, prayer, like Book of Acts, and like that's in fellowship, and it's like covenant. And I'm gonna be honest with you, like when I'm with my wife, I'm not thinking we're in covenant together.
Yeah.
We're in, what is the current status of our discipleship? In like, just I'm with my wife. Like when I'm with friends, like I'm with friends. Mm-hmm. So like how if let's say out of a certain amount of time that we hang out, what percentage of that has to do with what I would consider to be the biblical part of it? Well, first off, it's all of it. Yep. But second of all, like, dude, maybe 5-10% of the time do we actually talk about something that's deep.
Yeah.
Or like
meaningful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, honestly, when I'm playing golf, I don't want to talk about stuff that matters.
Yep.
Yeah.
And most guys don't. It's like, can we just hang out?
Yep.
But inevitably, like out of 12 months, if I hang out with somebody 12 times, dude, we might never talk about something super deep or whatever. It's like, what are the expectations?
Yep.
What are some people are looking for a spouse that they're going to sit down every night and like have a 2-hour Bible study together. And if they don't, they're not a spiritual couple. Sure. I'm like, dude, that's weird.
Yeah.
Like, no, that doesn't like that. I'm sure there's somebody out there who does, but I'm going to be honest. I know a lot of guys that are deep people. That's not reality. It's not reality. So young people, if they're looking for that, I'm like, dude, just stop.
So that's actually the reason I asked the question, was because the comment or the question was, what does it actually look like?
Yeah.
Right.
And I think because the idea or what's presented out there, or just maybe even imagined in our own minds, is this is what it has to be in order to be a Christian community. And then honestly, for most, it's like, that just doesn't even sound fun.
Yeah.
That's all it is. Like, what about
right.
enjoying life together? What about just being around each other and laughing together and that kind of thing? And you said it, I think all of it is biblical. All of it's Christian. So any thoughts around those types of things?
No, I think that's the answer to the question, is it's just being with people. It's just having the relationships where it's not like every time I text you, I'm not going to bare my soul of like, help me process all of my sins. Like, are we Catholic now? Is that what I'm doing? Is this confession every time we're friends?
Are you my priest?
Exactly. Like, no. But at the same time, I do have friends that when I'm in a bad spot, I can do that. But the whole relationship is not exclusively like, hey man, help me, I'm struggling with this. Like, it's hanging out, it's having fun, it's just being with one another. Because being with people is what creates the environment and the trust to have the deep, meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
But it's not real life to walk around all the time exclusively in deep conversations. Like,
there has to be trust. Do you trust me
Yeah.
whenever we're joking around and like you laugh and we have a good time? Like, I see you smile whenever I'm around. Like, there's there's all these social cues of being in relationships with people that breed an environment of trust, which then if you have enough pockets where you feel trusted, you feel safe, eventually you're going to start sharing things with each other. You know, it's always a good thing.
So what's a couple ways that those relationships are developed for you? What does that look like for you, Brent?
Being with people, you know,
just
like,
time invested.
Just time invested. Having like
what actually gets you guys in the same room? Like, how do you you know, when you said that, I was thinking like, how do you actually become friends with someone? Is it around something? Is it like
so? Okay, let's just take the church world. Okay, so you have the groups that produce some sort of, it's an ecosystem of environments that can take place or relationships that can take place. And within those, you know, like right now, we're hanging a lot alike with our young adult leaders. So it's like we're starting relationships that we didn't have last year, we now have because of the responsibility we have as a young adult team on getting together for groups. Well, we're also hanging out and we watch a basketball game Monday night. It's like, man, we're starting to be with those people. Yes, we minister with people too, but we're also just having fun watching basketball games.
Yeah.
You know? So it's like two different pockets and it's proximity.
We got to be able to have fun together.
Yes.
Like that's the big thing for me. Like we got to be able to laugh, have fun. Like if you take yourself too seriously or take the world or other things, like I joke a lot. I like comedy. Everything's funny. Everything can be funny if you tell a joke good enough.
Yeah.
And so
even like the really hard things in life. It's like, it's actually nice to laugh sometimes about how hard something is. Because that's a way that some people deal with really hard things.
And it doesn't deplete the importance of the thing. It's not that. It's just like, man, let's laugh. Let's have fun. If we can't do that, no, it's draining to me.
So that's a question I've been asking a lot lately. Is this, and I've been telling everybody, I'm like, almost like, let's go back to just the simple questions. And a lot of times after church, somebody comes up and they're just like, "Oh, pastor, you know, we're talking," and it's good. And I don't have a problem having those types of conversations, by the way, just so people know. But I enjoy that. But if I'm just meeting somebody and like they're telling me all their church history or this or that, honestly, a lot of times I cut them off. And I'm like, "What do you do for fun?"
Yeah, that's a shocking question too.
Oh, they're like,
pray.
Yeah, right.
Read my 1-year Bible.
I'm like, no. What do you do for fun?
Yeah.
Yep.
And sometimes people are like, I'm not doing anything right now
Yep.
that's actually fun. And I'm like, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Who do you hang out with where you just laugh till your stomach hurts?
Yep.
Like who? And if you don't, you got to find that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm that, but you got to find that. You got to find people. I mean, dude, you know, laughter is medicine, man.
Absolutely.
Like you got to find that. And I think a lot of people they're stuck in such a pursuit mindset of like deep things and growth and blah, blah, blah. They just forget like, hey, dude, sometimes you grow by just relaxing.
Absolutely.
Yep.
You know, honestly, and having fun and having people that you're sitting down, you're not actually having to be all ramped up and get all philosophical and get all biblical or whatever. Like sometimes you just need to be.
Yeah.
And that's actually okay.
Yep.
Like that's okay. So
and you have to find that. Like you said, you have to pursue that.
Yep.
That's what biblical community looks like, is you have to pursue it. And that means there's going to be some times where you don't have fun. And that's okay. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person or that maybe that relationship just isn't for you.
Yeah.
But you got to keep pursuing to find your circle that you can have fun with.
Yeah.
life sucking versus life giving relationships.
Yes.
So what does biblical community look like? There are some relationships that suck the life out of you, and you know that it's sucking the life out of you whenever if they come to your house and they leave and you feel like you are like depleted and just want to go lay down and take a nap because you're so, oh my God, that was exhausting.
You're thankful they're gone.
Yeah. Like you need to check on that. Why do I feel that way? Okay. Where they are always pulling stuff out of you, but never depositing anything into you. You know what I'm saying? Like there's no reciprocation. Like that's what the word when you were talking. There's no reciprocation in that relationship. That's a sign. Now some relationships are ministerial where it's like, no, actually I know that in this relationship they have nothing to give and I'm ministering to them.
Yeah.
Right? That there are those relationships. But even in that, some people mistake what ministerial relationships look like.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they just give and give and give, and then they become unhealthy because they've given so much. The well is empty, and now they don't have anything to give for their family or whatever, and now they're redlining, and then they burn out in ministry. That's what's happening to pastors all over the world. You know, it's like they've given, and then you've got comparison and all kind of stuff nowadays. It's like you can't even preach without comparing yourself to whoever else is doing. People come up to you, it's like, dude, I was listening to so and so. Every time I listen to them, they're incredible. And this is what they said about that. And it's like, thanks, man. Thanks for comparing me to like world class communicators. Like, bro, I'm just, you know what I'm saying? doing my best here. And anyway, it's just you have that dynamic of just always getting stuff pulled out of you. And that can become a problem. So
I think it's okay for some relationships to be seasonal too. Like those ministerial ones. Like, it's okay to set a timeline. If you're in a situation where it's like, I feel led to minister to pour in this person, it's 100% okay to be like, hey man, I want to meet with you for 6 months, whatever it is, and set a timeline to where you know that you're done with this part of this at this time.
It takes maturity, and there's the people on the other side of that. Sometimes they're not okay with it. So I have a guy in my life right now who he was a coach of mine, right? Like not like life coach. I don't know what you really call him, but anyway, I met him at a conference. And we had a conversation, and I ended up reaching out to him and wanted to have him come to the church. And so he said yes. And I was like, oh, cool. So he came. Whenever he was here, he said, man, I'm going to be transparent with you. He said, I don't usually come to churches like this. And he's like, I like this guy. He's humble. He could say stuff that sounds really cocky, but
it's not
I
who
get
he is.
it. Yeah. He was like, I usually don't come to churches that are this size. I go to bigger churches. You know what I'm saying? And I know that. And also, he is that type of guy.
Right.
And he said, but I felt like God put it on my heart to come here. And he said, I really felt like God put it on my heart to offer my services to you. He's a coach, a network, and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't think he was trying to sell something to me. I really believe. So anyway, I was like, well, thank you for being honest. Like, I could take a straight shooter. And so anyway, he became a coach of mine, right, for almost 2 years. And I knew that we were having so much interaction based upon the fact that he was getting paid every month. Like, you want to talk about going to the extreme of a potentially what you could call an artificial relationship. Like, you could think that way. It was not. Yes, of course, there's money involved, but it was much deeper than that. And so anyway, I'm talking, we'd cry on Zoom calls together, like that type of stuff, right? He became intricately involved in my life and spoke into me and spoke into situations, and totally objective. At the end, there came a point where our conversations, where I was like receiving from him so much. And then there came a point where it was like, now our conversations are, I'm not really receiving as much. We're just having a conversation. He had given me all that he could give me from his experience to help me. And guess what? It did. It helped me get healthier, think differently, and it affected my life in a good way. But there came a point where it was like, we no longer need this type of interaction. And I was like, I think I'm good. Like, thank you so much for giving so much of yourself into me. But now, like, I don't want to take that much time from you anymore. Go and you know what I'm saying?
But also, I'm not going to delete your number, and it'd be weird when I see you now.
Check this out. It's been about a year and a half to 2 years now where it's not official, right? But he's like, whenever we were kind of closing that season, he was like, I want you to know that, like, it's not just about being paid to be that person in your life. I love you, and you need me. Like, do the same. Call me, text me. And guess what? We've called and texted 15 times. And some stuff is just about family. It's just like I know his daughter, they had a baby, there was a problem. How so-and-so doing? And like that type of interaction. But even to this, 2 weeks ago, I texted him. I said, hey, man, I asked him a question. No response. Text him again, no response. I don't know where he's at. He's probably on vacation or something like that. Sure. I didn't get all weird.
Yeah.
Well, why don't you respond? He never responded about that. And guess what? I had to make the decision without his input. That's fine. Moved on. I texted him about something else the very next, last week, and he sent back a response. Not him trying to help, but he said, go to YouTube and search this guy, and he'll help you out. I didn't get hurt by that.
Yeah.
I know that he doesn't have time for me right now.
Yeah.
That's okay.
That takes a mature person.
Yes, which is
that's the
next
point.
Level.
Yeah.
Some people, those relationships, they pull life out of you because they're not emotionally mature, and you have to protect yourself from them becoming codependent on you, and also you becoming codependent on them.
Oh yeah,
which is I can't make a decision unless I ask them, and if they don't, then they don't like me. That's a problem.
Yeah,
that's a problem.
Oh yeah, if you're in the ministerial relationship where you're the giver, where you're giving it, it can become so fulfilling to you at the moment that they don't need you anymore, or the moment that you just said right there, it can be a small identity crisis.
Oh yeah,
of who am I, or was this even real? Or
we talk about the people being codependent on the person that they're receiving from.
What about the other side?
People love to be needed.
Yes,
true.
And it's insecurity. There's a lot of stuff wrapped up into that. But people can find affirmation from people calling and texting them, asking them for advice. Whenever you love people to reach out to you, I just love to minister to people. I just love to help people. Right. But why do you love help it? The enemy will twist things. People that begin to manipulate other people and control them start with the first step of, I just really love to help people.
Absolutely.
And that could be pure. We're not ripping that. If you say that, it doesn't mean that you're trying to manipulate people.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden you're like, I really like people to reach out to me. I like to be needed.
Then you start manufacturing problems in their lives to give them advice. You know, you start saying, when you're having conversations with them, you're always looking to minister to them.
Yes.
And you're always looking to be like, have you thought about this? And then you're starting to dig and look for problems that weren't even there in the first place.
I know
it's
what you're
and it might not even be an actual care for them as much as a care for yourself.
Yep. You make it something that you can follow up with them later, so that you can keep this
keep that dopamine hit going.
Yes.
Yep.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yep.
It happens.
You got to check it.
So biblical community can be really good, and it can also be a cloak for something really bad. You know, so whoever's asking this, you don't gauge biblical community based on conflict, and whenever you say discipleship, be careful on that. Like, discipleship has a lot of different factors to it. It's not just Bible study, although Bible study is part of it. Teaching someone how to read the Word.
Yep.
You know, it's life. Okay, so discipleship is life. When Jesus said, "Come follow me," he didn't say, "Come, let me teach you theology." He said, "Come follow me. Let me teach you the way that I live.
Yep.
Let me teach you the way that I think. By us being in a relationship together, I want you to absorb like the way that I approach life." And that's what this is. And so we are absorbing. We're absorbing and imbibing the way that we approach God and everything. But Jesus was with them for 3 years. And then and in that process, he had sent them out. Multiple, they came back. He sent them out, and then he left. He said, "Now go."
Yep.
Go. There's some things that you're only going to learn by not being physically with me. Go figure it out. I'm going to be with you in spirit, but go figure it out. I've given you the tools that you need to go. And I just I've pictured Jesus as like, don't become codependent on me in this weird like you go, like you've got it, go. And codependent on Jesus sounds weird, but we're dependent on Jesus.
Jesus is my co-pilot.
Yeah, I mean we are dependent on Jesus, but there's relational dynamics that did play out in that time. Jesus is like, you go preach.
Yeah.
You know?
So I don't want to miss one little part about this, because I'm just thinking about kind of the route we've gone. We've gone to have fun, you know, and like all the things that we've said, but there will be moments when you're in deeper relationships where you see parts of your friend's life that you might not have seen at the very beginning, to where, you know what, it's like, this is dangerous for them. You're like, this is trouble territory for them. And it almost might be the Lord giving you insight. And because trust is developed, and there's this fear internally that can happen in some people that say, well, no, if I do that, it's going to ruin a friendship. If I confront.
Sometimes.
Okay, well, that's when it gets to that spot, how do you lovingly, but biblically, correct, or just have a conversation? Is it just a conversation? What does that look like?
Yeah, give an actual example.
Yeah.
Okay.
That way it's like real.
Yeah.
Okay. So this would have been about 3 years ago, maybe. And it was a guy that was involved in our community, in our group, and he had reached out to me about some relationship advice. Well, I knew that the relationship he was in wasn't the most biblical relationship. And we had gotten to a point where it's like, hey, I was just kind of letting them live their life or whatever. And I waited to a certain point where I knew that I was trusting to them, and he reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, I need some questions." I was like, "Dude, let's meet up. So let's go have dinner." And then we had a 2-hour conversation, and it got to the point where it was about how to have a more Christ-centered relationship. They were having some problems. I said, "Okay." I was like, "Do you trust me?" I asked him, and he was like, "Yeah, of course." And I was like, "Well, in order to have a Christ-centered relationship, you should probably stop doing this and maybe be more." They were living together, and I was like, "Man, that's not going to produce the healthiest Christian relationship in your life. You guys are both saying you guys want to follow Jesus. Well, this is what he calls a Christ-centered relationship to look like. Hey, you guys shouldn't be sleeping together. You guys should be pursuing Christ." And, you know, we have plenty of people in our community that would be open to having you guys as roommates. It's like, I'm not saying you guys should separate, but you guys should make it more Christ-centered. And I only went there because he was asking me for advice. Mm-hmm. And I knew at a certain point, I was like, hey, he says he trusts me. I feel like I have some trust and some equity with him. And it didn't pan out like I thought it was. Yeah. You know, it ended up, some of my words got twisted, and the relationship fizzled off. Yep. And sometimes that's the ramifications of that Christ-centered relationship between us and another brother. But I've also had experiences where we knew something was happening in a friend's life, and I felt the responsibility to have the conversation with them. And when I did, it produced healthiness. Mm-hmm. It was a healthier relationship. And now our relationship with them is even healthier. And it's because we know about some of the deeper problems that they're struggling with. Yeah. You know, and now we're the people that they reach out to, and it does produce life, but sometimes it doesn't produce the outcome you want it to. Yeah, that's the struggle with being a Christian leader.
Oh yeah, I'm reminded of a time where a friendship we'd had for 4 or 5 years, and just through conversation and getting to know each other, he had told me, you know, in his life, you know, a struggle of his had been pornography. And it was just like a conversation we had had. And, you know, months went by after having that conversation, and lots of laughs and having fun together and all those kinds of things. And I was hanging out with him one time. There was just a look in his eyes. I can't explain it, but you guys all probably know. It's like, man, something's off. Yeah. Something's off. And I asked him, are you okay? And it was, yeah. And I said, no, are you really okay? He said, man, just kind of walking through something. And it was one of those that we're not taking ground in this. He's not willing to open that up. Mm-hmm. And anyway, you know, behind the scenes, just as a friend, without texting him and telling him, just literally would pray for him. You know, Lord, would you, just whatever's going on. About a week and a half later, middle of the night, I had a dream. That never happens in my life. Like that's not, but it was literally that he's struggling with that exact same thing again.
Yeah.
And dude, I woke up and like my heart was heavy for him. That's the truth. And that morning, I just shot him a text and just told him straight out of nowhere, I know this is weird. I had a dream about you, all the little jokes. Nothing weird, but no, this is what happened. Are you okay? And it was, man, can we talk? So we got into a conversation about, things that he said in the past about struggles of his life, but then also about, is this a struggle right now? And he's like, yeah, I've slipped up, and like I'm using it as a coping mechanism. That's literally what the conversation got into. But we ministered, we prayed, we talked through, and literally built in, just for a little while, you just said seasonal things, we built in something to where, hey, once a week, let's just have a conversation. How are you? We're going to check in this time, for the next month. And it was just 4 times. And that's what our friendship looked like in that season. But it came through, I'm not saying the template to correction is asking God to give you a dream, but I am saying, look, be close enough to your friends so when you see that something might be off, that you're available to see it. That you're willing to have the honest conversation, truthful conversation. I think honesty is the key part. And even just saying the words, I'm concerned for you. If you are, I think concern in the heart of a friend does a lot of really powerful things. But then ministry as what you're full with and biblical knowledge, but also just practical advice. And sometimes it's just prayer. For me, that's some of the things that have helped in biblical confrontation.
I think a good rule of thumb is to go in asking a lot of questions, not assuming that you know everything, even though you might. So I talked a little about my brother a couple episodes, just going through some situations in life, and just asked a ton of questions. And over the course of questions, found answers like, "Hey, dude, I love you. I don't think that you're making the right decision here." And so I feel like I need to someone needs to tell you that that's not biblical, but still loving in the end of it. But if you go into every conflict assuming that you know all the details, all you're going to do is blow up every relationship you go into, because there's probably something you don't know, or you're not emotionally connected because you haven't taken the time to hear what they're going through. You might know the situation, but you're not engaged with the emotions they're going through it. So it's really good to ask questions and be connected, and not just going looking to throw the hammer down and be like, let me go ahead and chop you down here and move on to the next thing.
I think there's 2 positions that we sit in as people. One is sometimes we are the one that's doing the instigation of the we'll say correction or confrontation, or like caring enough to bring it up, and then sometimes we're on the other end of that. A small example, but it was in 2020. We were having a certain rehearsal thing, and it was after a Sunday service. And into 2020, I was not healthy. I was not like emotionally, spiritually healthy. I was bottomed out. And anyway, we're at this rehearsal. It's just people weren't prepared. It was just a bad rehearsal. And so in it, under my breath, I said something. Well, the microphone was on. And I didn't say anything. I didn't cuss anybody out or anything, but it was just, my attitude was wrong. Really, it was a bad planning, the way that we planned how to do all of it in the first place. And I should have been smart enough to say, hey, we ain't doing it after church on, 2020. Like, it's just bad timing. But anyway, so afterwards, Joel came up and he said, dude, I got to talk to you. He said, hey, man, you can't do that. I was like, and, initially you want to defend yourself. You want to, blame shift and all that kind of stuff.
All the emotions,
And he was like, and I don't remember everything that was said, but it was basically like, you that tears down what we're trying to build. And I just gritted my teeth because I knew it was right. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yep. I said, I got reasons, but it doesn't matter. You're right. And apologize, text some people, hey, sorry, which was funny. The people that I text were just like, hey, it's all good. We're all people. Like, it's all, it was good. But if he wouldn't have confronted me, I wouldn't have sent a text. And you know what happens with that is then people have a moment and they build on that moment.
Absolutely.
And then you have 3 or 4 of those moments and all of a sudden it's your whole reputation.
It's a bigger thing. Yep.
So the confrontation ends up potentially helping me save face with people that I didn't even know maybe heard, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there on that side, it was like, shut up, take it, Don't be prideful. Don't be defensive. Own it, and then change and move on, right? So there's that side of how you receive, because, you know, you're going to be on both sides.
Yeah,
absolutely.
You know?
I think owning it is a big deal. I think that's where, at least for me, that's where I tend to miss it the most. Or you just like, I am trying to be super intentional right now to own everything that comes my way. And you said something like, people may not hit the bullseye, but they're probably on target.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to find as much as I can own that I can, because by doing that, I'm giving myself the opportunity to change and grow. But if you never own it, you're going to keep on making the same mistake and doing the same thing over and over and repeating the cycle.
Yep.
So owning it is where I see people missing it the most.
Yeah.
Because we all have reasons. We all have excuses. And
lots of them.
I even hate the word excuses, because some of them aren't excuses. Some are real
legit
reasons, like, no, I was right to be pissed right here. It's like, it doesn't matter. You were right to be pissed. You weren't right to react to being pissed. And that's what actually got you.
Yeah.
So
I had a buddy that, this is about, let's see, I've been married 17 years. So it's about 13 years ago. And he started coming to church. I knew him his whole life. And, well, since he was like 3 years old. And we became close. Started coming back to church, and we got close. And really, I'm talking like the conversations of, like, you know, they're struggling with something and they call you and you talk about it, like that level of like just openness, transparency, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, he started sleeping around. And so I talked to him. You know, I was like, hey, man, similar to kind of what you were talking about, except we were very close. And I mean, come to the house, hang out, like close. And anyway, he didn't repent. He was just like, I'm going to continue to do this. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, we're doing this. And so he ended up kind of heading out to church. Like he was on his way out, you know. And so in the meantime, he hung out with some people that were in the church who I'd been very close to for a long time. And what he did was he lied to them about scenarios that went on. And this guy calls me. It's like, dude, is this true? I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, not the guy that I was close to, the guy that he went and lied to. I'm like, yeah, dude, that did not happen. I have no idea what you're talking about right now. He's like, well, so-and-so told me that that's what happened. I'm like, when? Where? Well, we were all hanging out, my wife, blah, 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 and that's what he said. I'm like, nah, dude. So I called him. I hung up that phone, called him straight up. I said, bro, did you say 1, 2, 3? And he got kind of awkwardly quiet, you know? He's like, yeah. I said, you know that's a lie. Yep. I said, why are you lying to people that I'm very, like, you're affecting my life. You're the one that's doing this. I'm not. Don't start trying to justify yourself and make up stuff. I mean, it was made up. Like, and he owned it. He's like, he said, I don't know, man. I'm just not in a good place. And I just did that in order to justify myself, obviously. And I'm like, bro, if you're seriously sorry, call them back and tell them that you lied. I said, because now they think this about me, and it's not even true. And so he did. Our relationship was on the rocks for a little while. But about 1.5 years, 2 years later, we started texting again. He had moved somewhere, and we started texting again. And me and Nadine ended up going where they lived, and we hung out with them. We stayed the night at their house, hung out, and it was restorative, that relationship. And now who he is, like, kind of vibes with who I am, like, full transparency. We're never impressed with each other. We've known each other way too long. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it doesn't, there's nothing that he can do that will shock me, and there's nothing that I can do that will shock him. Like, it's just that type of relationship, right? And so over the last now probably 10 years, we have walked through so much together. Like, I'm talking the deepest type of conversations, the deepest hurts that someone could walk through. I've walked through those things with him. I've told him the things in the moment that he needed to hear that literally nobody else would tell him. And I'm not going to give a lot of details because some people, you know, would know who this person is, you know, and I just protect some of that information. But I'm talking through weeping on the phone together confronting sin, like deep sin, being that person that will just say it, and I know that he's going to take it, and vice versa, by the way.
Yep.
You only get there through walking through really hard times together.
Absolutely.
Whenever somebody bald-faced lies about you, that's betrayal, man.
Yep.
And I took that, forgave that, and he owned it, apologized, and we took a little break. But, good thing that I forgave it. Good thing that he apologized. Good thing that I forgave it. And good thing we moved on, because I believe that God has used me in his life to salvage things in his life that potentially would not have been salvageable. And he's been a person in my life that I could talk to, be straight up with, and just bounce things off of. I'm just saying that sometimes you need to walk through that hard time and forgive and move on. And then there's other relationships where
you just
similar stuff happens. Yeah, you just move on. You don't necessarily have to restore that relationship.
So I think you literally just summarized what the question was: is what does biblical community actually look like? Well, it was time invested.
Lots of time.
It was honesty. It's fun. It's forgiveness. It's navigating the complexities of life, the highs and the lows. That is doing life together.
Right.
Biblical community.
Yep.
I think that's a great conversation that we kind of just stumbled into because of people's comments and questions.
Hey.
I'd encourage, if you've got questions, drop them on our comments or DM us, whatever platform you're in. You can even email us, ncunscripted@northwood.church, and we will do our best to answer it honestly, with some humor, and try to help everybody out. So looking forward again to our episodes coming up here in the future. We've got a couple guests coming. We've got a road trip coming up.
Road trip.
So keep watching the podcast. It's going to continue to be average.